Have a really good think, because somebody you know could earn you a lot of money for very little effort. Think, who do you know that wants to buy a property in Spain? A colleague, a mate, someone in your family, a friend of a friend? If you know someone, go to welcome-estates.com and click the Refer a Friend link. If they buy, you'll pocket a nice chunky thank you from one of Spain's leading estate agents. T's and C's apply. All details at welcome-estates.com.
Hello, all you hardcore boxing fans out there. How you doing? It's Russ here from Porky's Corner, biggest gob in sport. Today we're joined by Julian. As soon as he clicks on link. So there's been a lot going on last few days. First of all, can I just point out that there's a problem with my videos coming out a bit late. Well, there's not a lot I can do if my tech guy's gone on holiday, is there? So you'll have had some videos that have been late. Big wow, but I'm not one of them that has to rush everything out like everybody else. You get to hear my opinion eventually. If I vote to say, I say it on a camera. But I do apologise if they're a bit late, but what can you do? Hey, can you like me? I'm an Atari man, I ain't got tech skills. So better late than never, but nobody's forcing you to watch. So, all right. So, Julian should be on any second now. Mark is probably running late, which he never is. So, this Conor Benn situation, it's all rearing its ugly head. Well, my opinion is, we'll get Julian's opinion on it when he comes on. My opinion is this. Conor Benn, all they can do now is play mental health card and victim. It ain't working. So he's going to have to play mental health card, isn't he? A bit poster boy for drugs. He's going to have to go guilty. And more than likely, if he goes guilty, they're going to want bodies. So is Crusher Ben going to do a Bertie Smalls? Is he going to do a Bertie? Is he going to give them some bodies? Is he? Well, it remains to be seen, doesn't it? But they're all up to neck in it, aren't they? And who's been giving him all this advice? Hey, all this advice he's had. Unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. So anyway, Julian's joined us, and I've kept it going 60 seconds, Julian. How are you doing?
Oh, have you been giving me a big intro?
I'll give you a big intro, so we've got Julian on. Conor Benn's mate.
I'm just thinking I have a good mind to log off, mate. You've got that guy staring at me in an intimidating fashion.
What, Conor Benn intimidating, playing villain, Julian?
Well, you don't know what he's been taking, mate. He could be a scary guy.
He's walking around in his bad boy rapper outfit and giving it the big end, 21-0.
We're only jealous, don't forget. We're only jealous, mate.
14 by way of.
That's not even a puncher's record, is it? If you want to be like completely pedantic about it.
He's been punching lately, though, hasn't he?
His punching power is incredible at the moment. I think it's that technique. It's the coaches he's got. It's probably those S&C coaches as well.
Right, Julian, where we're at the moment, and what I'm going to do now, Julian, because there's that many having a wine, I'm just going to tell them date it video. 21st of April, there you go. So this will be going out after other few, but we do our best here. So I'm not one of them, Julian, that has to rush stuff out like everybody else. They're all frightened, aren't they? To miss that 48-hour period, aren't they?
Yeah, because they're only relevant if they're talking about something that's hot news. You know, we can just, you know, your show, you just talk about anything and everything, and it's light-hearted, it's quirky, it's got lots of different sort of strands, but they're just factual, aren't they? Just put it out there factual, but I think there's a bit more to this, what we do.
Right, where we're at then, Jules, at the moment is this. Conor Benn is now banned, isn't he? But they haven't given him his length. What I want to ask you, because I know you've done more research than me on this, and I've done a lot. Does that ban go back to the first week in April next year?
I think, yep. According to what the things that we're hearing, the ban starts from when the process starts with UCAD. Now I suppose subsequently the Boxing Board of Control. So the process, they haven't started with UCAD, have they? Until March the 15th, when obviously they start to comply with what they're asking for. because since obviously the first failure back last July, which is what you just said, and then obviously the second failure in, I think it was in late August, they've been in complete denial. We're innocent. We've not touched anything. They've refused to cooperate. So they've been shooting themselves in the foot, really, haven't they?
Yeah.
And I think what's happened is the penny's dropped. Right, okay, we've got a problem here. We wanted to set up this big fight in Saudi or Dubai or wherever, and it's not looking like it's going to happen. So they've finally realised, you know what? We have to sit down. We have to talk to UCAD. We have to submit what we consider to be evidence, mitigating factors. And I think that clock starts to tick from March the 15th, which is when they'll probably formally, put their appeal in or done whatever they've done. And I think that's why, other fighters, we always say it's been backdated, because I think they've at least had a seat at the table. Whereas what we've had this sort of petulance and arrogance and this refusal to play. I'm not talking to the border control because my dad don't like them and I don't like them. And they've just refused to play with anybody. And they've just elongated what could have been a ban that they've already been serving for 8, 9 months, 10 months. I think now is going to be a ban from March. And that'll be 2 years from March. So he's almost lost 3 years of his career.
Yeah. And for what? Taking bad advice?
I think, I'm quite open about stuff, and sometimes I don't change my opinion on things, but you get new information. You sometimes sit back and think about things instead of overreacting. And I did a video on Conor Benn and I pulled it. I took it down after about an hour. And I did the video because I started to feel sorry for him is maybe a strong word. But I started to look around at the advice that is being given from day one. And what we have to remember, and I've gone on record, he's not my cup of tea, you know that. Yeah, I know he's the kind of guy I wouldn't get on with. So in spite of what Gareth A. Davis and Simon Jordan, all these people saying about how they really like him, they love him, he's an amazing young man, but that they are just reporting on what they have to report on. I don't particularly like him. He's not, he ain't got the principles or the morals what I look for in people. However, I've started to feel for him. I've started to feel sorry for him because he is a young man. He's headstrong like his dad. Yeah. Boxers, they're not diplomats. They're not brain surgeons. And I'm not dismissing every boxer as being stupid, by the way, because that's an arrogant thing to do. And I'm not Einstein. But these things, they're not. They're just fighters. That's what they do. They're incredibly brave, incredibly tough men. They're fighters. So when you're a boxer, I remember fighters I've worked with over the years, and they just look at you for everything. And they look at the coach for marriage guidance, money lending, advice on everything. I've got my girlfriend pregnant. What do you think I should do? Boxers look at trainers and look at managers and look at agents and everybody for advice. And Conor Benn, the advice that Conor Benn's been given from day one has been absolutely shocking. Someone should have sat him down, as you and I have said, Russell, said, listen, it's in your system. Don't keep throwing good money after bad. It's in your system. There's a thing called strict liability, and we're going to have to just sit down with these guys and discuss it because we can't get around it. But they haven't done, have they?
No.
And the public feeling and the public sentiment about this has just become so strong. And all Conor Benn has had is the same arrogance around him. The same arrogance from his training team, his agents, people who represented him. All he's been saying, I'm going to sue the border control. I'm suing UCAD as well. I'm suing VADA. Big bollocks and all this kind of stuff on, the TV show he went on. Forget the guy's name, you know what I mean? And it's just like, it's not done him any good. And the public, we all like a bit of humility, all right? We all like people to be humble. And of course, we liked his style, his kamikaze.
We don't
style.
like a Mayweather type character over here, though, do we?
We don't like it, and you gotta own your losses, and you gotta own your flaws, and that's sometimes quite a painful thing to do. But there's been no humility, not even the fact that, all right, look, it's in my system. Don't know how it's got there, but I'm going to try my best to prove that, yes, it's in my system, but just going to try and do my best to prove how it got there, because I'm not a cheat. I'm really not a cheat. But there was none of that. There was like, scientists are wrong. They're getting things mixed up. They're not testing right. The labs aren't clean. I'm telling you, it's not in my system. So even the WBC, who gave him a kind of like a get out clause that proved to be a witness for the defence, to quote Simon Jordan, the WBC said, "Oh, been eating quite a lot of eggs lately, so we're going to clear you on that basis." And he's even saying, "No, it's not even that. It's not in my system." So he's rubbish. The only person who's given him any kind of defence, the WBC, is rubbish them. And they've just continued to rub everybody.
Well, WBC are not going to want to rubbish VADA because they've got a multi-million-pound deal with them, haven't they?
They're the gold seal of testing, and that's
well,
the
they
thing.
can't. That's it. Well, that's what they're saying. They're not going to let their WBC sanctioning body name be ruined because of one fighter who's not even won a belt yet. All he is some famous fighter's son.
So Conor Benn, I turned it off really quickly, I'll be honest. Conor Benn's manager, Sims, okay? He was on something. I saw him last night or this morning, and he popped up before I started work. And I thought, you know, Charlie Sims, look, you know what? I listened to him. Right? He's not spoken yet. We've heard Eddie every single day. It's become boring.
Oh, is he piping up now? One at Sims.
Oh, he's manager for the first time since, you know, in 10 months has piped up. And I thought, I'm going to listen to what he's got to say, because Charlie Sims, I've not heard anything from him so
What's
far.
this, IFL?
Yes.
Well, they all live in the same village, don't they?
Well, I'll tell you what happened, right? So Charlie Sims, as soon as he started, he just said, right, I'm going to give you a bit of the background. Conor Benn has been accused of having adverse findings, and I just stopped and I switched it off. And I thought, you and Eddie are the reason this mess is getting worse and worse and worse. He hasn't been accused of having adverse findings. He's got adverse findings. So if you're surrounded by, you know, your dad who will say, F the border control, tell him to stick it, and you've got a manager saying, well, he's been accused of it, and you've got Eddie who's saying, they're diverting people all the time by saying, the boxing border control didn't follow due process, who's leaking all this information to the press, and UCAD are not following due process, and the Amir Khan thing, they didn't tell anybody for 14 months. All they're doing is criticising everybody and everything and showing the arrogance because they're not doing the one thing which everybody wants them to do, which is why and how is this in your system? That is the only question here right now. Yeah. Everything else is just semantics and conjecture and everything else. How has this got in your system? Because you are going to have to prove now how this has got in your system. And I just felt sorry for him, because I thought, you're an arrogant young man. I wouldn't want to live next door to you, but you are a passionate athlete. You do work hard in the gym. There have been big improvements. Okay, you wonder why now. But the people around him, and you know what? We're family men, Russell. We've got children, right? Yeah. My dad had done the same thing to me. Sometimes in life you mess up, don't you? Yeah. You make bad decisions, bad judgments, and the role and mentor of a parent and of people who are close to you is to sit you down and they just say, look.
Well, his dad's older end of the world, isn't he? And he's surrounded by these psychopaths, isn't he?
And that's the problem, though, isn't it? Because Nigel was just the same. So the apple hasn't fallen far from the tree. But that's why I feel sorry for kids, because children often are a product of their environment and of the parenting. And he doesn't think he's done anything wrong. And he's not facing the one thing that we all want to know is, how has this got in your system? Because even the WBC said there was no issue with the process that VADA followed, which, like you've said, they won't say that, right? And UCAD are not going to find any differently. There's going to be no difference of opinion. Those samples were correctly taken. They don't even know they were your samples, by the way, Conor. Your name's not stuck on it, Conor Benn. Please fail, because we've all got it in for you, because there's an agenda against you.
It's a number. When you get tested in jail, it's called an MDT. It's a number.
It's just a number.
Serial number. On the bottle. That's all it is.
But no, there's an agenda against him, Russell, and that's the thing. And all we're hearing is Charlie Parsons and more Eddie Hearn than anybody. The arrogance of that man is like, there's an agenda. Who's leaking this stuff? Look, man in the mirror moment.
Smoke screens, in all they're doing, they're dragging
Smoke
it out,
screens.
giving as much PR out of it. They're going to build him up now, and they're going to break him down again, and they're going to build him up. He's going to have to do a press conference, bawling his eyeballs out. So
Yeah.
any day,
I've got a question.
That's what's going to happen.
So I've got a question, right?
Then they're going to have to give names.
Yeah,
He's
and I
gonna say
don't
he's
care what
not a
anybody
grass.
says.
Then he's going to say he's not a grass. Then they're going to poster boy him up as drug user, PED, all over the place. And then he's going to be going around schools and all that. They're building it all up now. You can see.
And this is the one thing I've got a question, right? Because I know people watch your show, and you know they do, license holders,
Of course they
people
do.
involved, because they want to see what
Yeah,
you're
but
saying.
half of them who are license holders don't say no.
No, right. So I have a question.
Which you can understand, though, can't you? But you know
Absolutely.
what? There's license holders now.
I get it, right?
Isn't there? They're saying, you know what? This ain't right.
So,
All right, let me ask you something, Julie. Let me ask you this. Let's reverse it back 10 years. You used to have it with all that lot, the Gary Sykes, didn't you? There'd be Chris Aston, Mick Wade, all them, all Glyn Rhodes, all you old timers, right? Most of them have probably still got license or still involved. What do them people think? Because these people, they're not saying no on the social medias, but I have a good idea of what they think.
Yeah, I know what they
I
think.
can tell you now.
Yeah, I know what they think, and that's why
Why should they put their fighters in with kids from down there and everything all be hunky dory? What if they're getting knocked about? How many kids have been knocked about by Sims fighters?
Yeah.
Hey?
There's some strong fighters in that stable, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, there is at the moment. They're all KO men. They're all Icemen. Even Eddie's an Iceman. Have you seen him on that basketball thing that you punch and it gives you a score thing? Every time you see Eddie, he's steaming into it, isn't he? Eddie would love to be that man, money. Could you imagine Eddie?
He'd love it.
Eddie having a white collar. Oh, could you imagine him? He'd be coming out to No Easy Way Out, wouldn't he? Like Frotch versus Butte, wouldn't
Who would they match him with? Who would they match
it'd be somebody who could flog, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Imagine Big Eddie coming out. Oh, man. In his Maury wig. Oh, my God. Tested against Hurricane Winds. Oh, my God. It'd be unbelievable, wouldn't it? But
and that's what I was talking about, owning your losses. I've owned my losses. I've taken my hair off. You know what I mean? Own your losses, Eddie.
Yeah, own your losses.
So just one more, Russell, right? I want to know one thing, right? All we hear from Eddie Hearn, Conor Benn, and Charlie Sims, all these people around him, right? All these people who are still so arrogant, saying, "I'm free to fight anywhere apart from in the UK." Well, when's your next fight? Where is it, and who's it against? Because we were told it was June the 3rd. So if you're free to fight, and you can do what you want as long as it's not in the UK, where's the announcement? We've got 6 weeks to go. Where's the announcement?
Well, there's got to be one, aren't there? There ain't one, is there?
There ain't one because he's not boxing because he can't box anywhere.
They've tried to bluff it, haven't they? They've tried to bluff it out, right? And they've come a copper, haven't they? Now they've got to get begging bowl out now and put tears on and be actors. Yep. They've got to keep acting now. They've got to go for full Monty now because they can't come out and go, "I'm guilty," can they? Or can they? Or are they going to say, well, we're not guilty, but it were in me piss. I don't know how it got there, and that's all I'm saying. Because it'll still be arrogance.
Well, is he still suing the board? He said he was suing the board, didn't he?
Dillian Whyte was suing WBC, wasn't he? We haven't seen it. Nobody's been sued. Listen, only person to sue WBC is Michael Hennessy when they won't let Howard Eastman fight Hopkins. He said, "Here, I'm not messing about with this. You'll look after me. I'll see you in court." And they got the fight, didn't they? And he did the same when it was Frotch Calzaghe. They pushed, and he vacated on last day. You do it with like Mick Hennessy, you get a lawyer on board. You do it the proper way. You don't shout your mouth off on Twitter. You go about your business very quietly. It's like hardly anybody knows that Tyson was sued by Mick Hennessy, do they? And that Tyson settled out of court. Nobody knows that, do they? Do you see Mick Hennessy shouting and bawling on social media about who he's suing? Does he? You just go about it, don't you? Yeah, well, then once you've been served, that's it.
Narcissists. The narcissists. That's like that. Listen, they've never been told no in their life. None of them.
Dylan White suing WBC. Do me a favour. Jesus, journeyman.
Good luck with that. Yeah, good luck with suing
Look
the
with that,
WBC.
Dylan. He's begging to get a fight in Macau, innit, with that Zhang. Him and Chisora begging to go to China now because he did 12 million pay-per-views versus Joyce. We'll have some of that, won't they?
Yeah.
Hey? They just don't know when to give it a rest, do they? Hey, and people tell me off and say, Porky, you're a bit harsh, aren't you?
It's not.
You've
it's
got
not
grown
hard.
men brassing themselves. Have you
Yeah, it's
seen
not
them
hard.
brassing themselves off? They're grown
Well, they
men.
will do.
Brassers.
I am disturbed looking at that picture, mate. I have to say.
Oh, Conor Benn there, sat there,
Yeah.
ringside, blatant.
He's sat there trying to intimidate me. I'm like, all
Biggest
right,
show at year. Biggest show at year. He's up to eyeballs in drug charges, strutting about with minders, giving it the big, giving it the big J rule.
I just thought it was a sad indictment on society. All the people wanting selfies with him, and I just thought, you know what, maybe not yet. I understand he has to go out in public. Of course, you can't hide forever. But the people you've been hiding from, UCAD and the board. Although I don't know what the board are going to say to you because you don't have a license, and you keep telling us they have no jurisdiction over you. So anyway, he's free. As I keep saying, I'm being ironic, but he's free to do what he wants, isn't he? I'm waiting for the announcement.
Announcement for what? Say he's got a ban.
3rd of June. I'm waiting for his announcement because he said I can do what I want.
Eddie's Saudi announcement.
I can fight anywhere I want in the world apart from the UK. I'm just waiting for the announcement. 3rd of June.
What about Chris Eubank? Where's he in all this now, Julian?
Chris Eubank will have known weeks ago he wasn't going to touch Conor Benn with a barge pole. So if you're Chris Eubank Jr., you've got two options. You've got one option, which is a rematch with a guy who's just ironed you out in 4 rounds. And you're going to go into that with your confidence shot to bits, get half the money. Or you can go to Dubai. You can fight Conor Benn at 160 pounds, fully hydrated this time. And you'll get 2-3 times the money, and it's a more winnable fight. But yet you're going to opt for Liam Smith because he knows no one's going to touch Conor Benn right now, and neither is Chris Eubank Jr.
Yeah.
The only person who would touch him would be someone might be a Manny Pacquiao, who's kind of half retired, doesn't care. Dress it up as an exhibition. I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, it's you think
It's grubby.
It's grubby, isn't it? What's going on? But do you know, how can they push forward and try and put it on now? Surely, nobody's going to want to put it on, are they? And who's going to want to fight on card or be a trainer on night?
I mean, can you imagine these lawyers he's paid? I mean, I think Terry was saying on his podcast that some of the lawyer who's been working for Conor Benn, he'll be on between £600 to £1,000 an hour. He'll be invoicing him, and you imagine like that. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll have a look at it, and they're not going to overturn nothing. Are they? They're not going to overturn nothing. I mean, this must have cost Conor Benn an absolute fortune.
Oh, they've had all them scientists looking at this and that and looking for any technicality, and it must be $250,000 out of pocket.
All he needed to do, a list of the products that you eat and you drink, and let's do some studies on those products. As I said, chain of custody, dead easy to get a chain of custody. At that level, it's your job to keep it anyway. And let's look at what you've been eating and drinking, supplements, protein powders, rehydration, recovery, etc. Let's look at all this stuff. Let's test it. And it'll give us a really easy solution. Well, guess what? This is where it's come from, because we know he's not using eggs as a defense now. So it must be something else. And that's what he needs to do. It'd have been cheaper to go down that route than it would be to go down the route of trying to discredit VADA and the process. He's been badly advised from day one, but Conor Benn, as I've said, is a boxer. He's not a diplomat. He's not a scientist. He's not legal. He's not an expert. I mean, who allowed him to go on Piers Morgan? I mean, that was just horrendous. I know he's his own man, but people should be advising him, saying, don't go on Piers Morgan. And he didn't do himself any favours, did he? And he's just become almost the undateable, hasn't he? He's just...
Well, this is how you've got to look at it, right? If it's Conor Benn or Piers Morgan's job, Conor Benn's going to get rinsed off Piers Morgan because he's been friends with Trump and then turned on him. So who's Ben and who's his dad? Piers Morgan won't be bothered about them. He'll run roughshod over anybody for views.
Of course he will.
You know what I mean?
It's just, as I said, I pulled the video because I thought, no, I'm being a bit soft now, and ultimately it's up to him what he puts in his system. But I'm going to say one more thing as well, and I'll be careful how I word this, because I come across as I'm hating on the man, and I genuinely not. I just don't care for him. It's as simple as that. But what I will tell you about boxers, and anyone who's ever worked really, really closely with boxers, whether you're a trainer, conditioner, assistant coach, manager, whatever, boxers look to you for solutions all the time. They just turn up. They like the kind of like regimented lifestyle, and they will do what you tell them to do. But what boxers aren't is they're not nutritional experts, right? So a boxer, for example, wouldn't decide if he was. So hypothetically, okay, Conor Benn was knowingly taking performance-enhancing drugs. That's the hypothetically, I'm going to say that, right? Yeah. Conor Benn wouldn't decide and just say, you know what? I have to have a bit of Deca, I have to have a bit of Nyandlin. Well, what about a bit of growth, a bit of this? He wouldn't have a clue what to take.
No.
He wouldn't know how to take it, what measures to take and what to take. He would have been advised on how to take it, how to flush, how to rinse, and how to go under the radar and the timings and everything. He would have been advised on all this. So this is why I feel a little bit sorry for him, because if he did need any performance aids, and it looked to me in his first 2 years as a pro like he needed some help, did that guy? And he really did. If he was knowingly taking anything, it would have been prescribed for him. It would have been laid out for him. He wouldn't have a clue what to take, when to take it, and when to stop taking it, and when to filter down and taper down, and when to, that's where clomiphene comes in, when to flush it. And he wouldn't have had a clue, Russell. So he's on his own right now, isn't he? He's going to be on his own right now. But ultimately, if he has knowingly taken this, there's other people in this picture, and that is what, and you have to look at the gyms, and that's what Gabriel Montoya was saying. He says, you know, there's a school of thought out there from people who believe you shouldn't just ban the fighter, you should ban anybody in close relationship with that fighter, because fighters don't do this themselves, Russell. Fighters don't, you say, do you know what, I need a bit of this, I need a bit of that. Because like Terry's really an expert on this stuff, and he understands it way more than I do. But we all know, don't we, that different banned substances do different things. Conor Benn wouldn't have had a clue what to take. He wouldn't have had a clue. And he's been badly advised.
It shows you how I don't know, silly he's been. We're going on Piers Morgan, doesn't it, really?
Really, really silly. I think he's been badly advised from day one. He's continually badly advised. And Conor Benn is surrounded by people like himself who won't accept any wrongdoing or any blame, and they're just lashing out at everybody else. And Conor Benn probably needs more, someone who's going to be a little bit straighter with him and be a little bit, you know, stricter with him. And, you know, if the biggest star in boxing, Canelo Alvarez, can do a ban, and Canelo Alvarez took some massive steps to explain how that was in his system, including providing hair follicles, subsequently the 365-day drug testing, literally getting tested all the time. He provided some massive reports into his diet, nutrition, his receipts for where he bought everything. And if the biggest fighter in boxing can still provide all of that and still get a ban, you're looking at a ban, pal. You're not bigger than Canelo Alvarez. You've never won an area title right now. You're looking at a ban. And this is what the people around him, and this is why we talk about this so often, Russell, because it's so frustrating. The people around the arrogance, the people around you, Conor, they're letting you down. They're giving you garbage advice and garbage instruction. And guess what? When you do get a 2-year ban, kind of your phone will stop ringing for a while. And if you decided, you know what, I've had enough of this sport, right? I'm done. And you spend the rest of your life doing something else, You won't hear from these people in 6 months. You won't hear from them. So I'd be looking, listen, you're ultimately responsible as an athlete for what goes in your body, and you make your own decisions. But sometimes when you're surrounded by people a little bit older and wiser and uglier than yourself, it can't be just one man who gets the blame for this.
Listen, Julian, first you're angry, then you're upset, then you look for, then you blame, you look for somebody to blame. So he's been angry. We've got the upset to come, and after upset, get ready, because there's going to be blame game, and all them around him now. Every day that goes by, they'll be on edge.
Yep.
All of them around him that have been feeding off that kid, they'll be thinking, "Got meal tickets gone here. You're not earning for a bit in here now. What we're going to do here?" Wasted.
And there's an element of this. It's such a shame because even you and I spoke about Conor Benn last, 12, 18, 24 months ago. And we were talking about him, and there were elements of his personality I didn't care for, the brassness and the showing off with the cars and all that kind of stuff. But as a fighter, I started warming to him. I started watching him, because I struggled with the issues, the stuff he said about Robin Deacon. I really struggled with that. But as a fighter, I'm thinking, wow, yeah, he's exciting. He's a chip off the old block. And he started to get this big momentum behind him, didn't he? And people don't have an agenda, because I think a lot of people, maybe not me, but a lot of people were hoping that Conor Benn would become this big, massive star, and he would become a world champion, and he would fly the flag for British boxing. It'd be brilliant from a nostalgic point of view. And people were really hoping he would be that person who set boxing on fire again. So everyone hates him. Everyone's got an agenda against him. It's not true. People don't like drug cheats, and people don't like arrogance and denial when you banter rights, and that's what people don't want. And what's happened here is it's been a two-step process, Russell, as you know. It already left a real bad taste in people's mouths before the failed test, dragging a man down to 157 pounds. Yes, that man had signed up to himself. Yeah, yes, Eubank, his dad didn't want to know, but yes, Eubank had agreed to it. His manager had agreed to it. Whoever was involved in the training had agreed to it. But that was such a distasteful thing, to bring a man down to 157 pounds. He hadn't weighed that since he was 17-year-old. He hadn't weighed that for 13, 14, 15 years. He was dangerous. And then we found out there'd been 2 adverse findings, and they were still prepared to put an explosive young puncher in with a severely dehydrated skeletal fighter, with knowing what they knew, and the public had just gone off them so bad. It's like, you don't do it, Russell, do you? You just do the things you don't do. You just don't do it. And it were two-pronged. It was vulgar. And after all that, there's just no remorse, is there? There's no humility, no remorse. And I'm saying the same thing. But it leaves a bad taste in people's mouth, which is why you and I are still talking about it. If we'd coughed and owned up to it back in July, August, cancelled the fight in good time, people hadn't bought tickets, booked flights, days off work, etc., etc. Undercard fighters hadn't been working towards that date. If it just pulled out then, if they'd all decided to pull out then and says, right, we need to sort this out, we need to sit down with the board, we need to sit down with UCAD. If they'd done that then, people say, right, he's serving a ban, 2-year ban, he'll learn from it, and we'll buy into him again. But I said to you, he'll come back and he'll get a soft ban, and people start to follow him again, and he'll become this kind of hero again. I don't think that's the case now. I think the behaviour has been so despicable all across the team, and no apology, nothing at all. I think people are massively going against them now, to the point you either don't like him or you don't actually care what he does, and the whole team. And I think Matchroom and the whole team are so surprised by the backlash, and they're in a situation they've not helped themselves one bit, have they?
No, they aren't actually. It's
I know that's a big speech, but it's despicable what they've done. We could have been facing a ring death that night, mate. I said that to you, didn't I? Remember, before the drugs thing.
Yeah.
I came on here and I said, people who are saying it's a dangerous fight for
It
Conor
had an
Benn.
eerie feel to it from day one, didn't it?
Yeah, it had a bad feel to it. And I said to you, Scott, it's dirty. This is right. You don't drag a man down to 157. And most people will say, no, I think Conor Benn's the one who's in danger. He's fighting a bigger man. People move up in weight all the time. You know, you go to any show, you go to Dennis's shows, and there'll be fighters, boxing journeymen who's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pound heavier. There'll be heavyweights who are 17 stone fighting heavyweights who are 22 stone, right? Giving weight is not always this. We have weight divisions for a reason, but giving weight is not as dangerous as dropping too much weight. That is way more dangerous. You know, you give weight, you fight a bigger, stronger guy, you might get knocked out quicker. But you drag your body down, and it's a long, drawn-out process in that ring, and it's dangerous. And it had a dirty feel to it from day one. They should have never made the fight. Should have never made that fight. It was a bad idea. And they've got a guy who started as a light welterweight in Conor Benn, and a guy who was a super middleweight, really, who was good at super middleweight. Two people naturally with 2 stone difference between them to try and make this fight, to just draw all the people in because of the Ben Eubank names. And they've come up with this ridiculous catch weight and this rehydration clause. And then they still tried to pursue this fight knowing that one of them was dirty. It's despicable. And this has been a big stain on boxing. And that's why people keep saying, why are people still talking about this? Why people? It's because it wasn't just one thing. It wasn't just he got busted for peds. He owned up to it. It wasn't that. It's just been the dirty chapter from day one, and it's just been a cynical idea. And you reap what you sow, don't you?
I'll tell you what.
I feel for him. He's all alone. He's been, you know, he's been badly advised from day one. But I also believe he should be banned as well.
Spencer Oliver's been a, let's just say, he's done his job on this one, hasn't he? Put his neck on the line, hasn't he? As regards Pally with all them, because, you know, there's a bit of bad blood there, from what I'm hearing.
Spencer Oliver, whatever you think about Spencer, he's been injured and almost lost his life in a fight, and he knows the dangers of boxing. So imagine if Spencer Oliver
hype around him, the Omen, there was some right hype around him, wasn't there?
Good fight at the Omen. I remember the fight he had with, I think it was Keith Mullins. It was a Southern Area title fight. It was an absolute barnstorm. It was a brilliant fight. And then he got stopped at European level, didn't he, by a good operator, and obviously had the injury. But Oliver was a good fighter. But he knows how hard it is to make a weight anyway. And if someone would have asked Spencer Oliver to be 3 pounds less for that fight, and the guy who unfortunately, you know, gave him the damage.
That was probably the difference, wasn't it, on night?
And if he'd been found out he was taking peds, which he wasn't, imagine how Spencer Oliver would feel. So he's looking at this and he's going, "You can't do this. This is wrong. You can't behave like this. This is disgraceful." So I don't think he's playing the politics. I think Spencer Oliver's actually just saying, "This is wrong, and I don't care how upset along the process."
Well, him and the Gad have done the jobs. The Gad's been outspoken, hasn't he?
They've done the jobs, and that's what ultimately they have to report.
Simon, and Jordan.
Yep, the one thing the Gad's been doing it continually, he's been saying he has to answer the case. He has to answer the case. And the longer this has gone on, the Gad says, I don't know why I won't sit down with the people he needs to sit down with. And the only reason he's sitting down with people now, Russell, is not because he's chose to, is because he's got a gun to his head, which is effectively saying, you ain't going to get licensed anywhere in the world. Never mind this, I'm free to fight. You ain't going to get licensed anywhere in the world unless you sit down with UCAD. So he's doing it reluctantly, but he's lost some time on his career. He really has lost some time.
He has. You want to go to part 2, Julian?
Yeah, let's do it, mate.
Cheers, pal.
Porky's Corner is proud to be sponsored by Spartan Site Solutions. They are specialists in civil engineering and demolition contracts for the construction industry. Interested parties should visit their website or contact Porky's Corner for a referral at pokecorner@mail.com.